Hi everyone! So for today's video, we will be having a discussion with regards to corporation accounting or corporation. I know that you are familiar with that. You've heard a lot with that term or with that word. So for you to know more about what corporation is all about, let's go back first to the fundamentals of accounting. So diba in accounting 1, you have been taught with the different forms of businesses. And there are 3 basic forms. We have sole proprietorship, we have partnership, and we also have corporation, the third one. So, sole proprietorship is a form of business that is owned by a single person. So that person is the owner and at the same time, he manages it. So wala siyang kahati. So he gains all the profits, at the same time, he bears all the losses if malulugi. While partnership naman, it is a contract between 2 or more persons that contribute money, property, or industry with the intention of dividing the profit among themselves. So for you to form a partnership, you must be 2 or more. So dapat may kapartner ka, may kahati ka. So you may contribute cash, you may contribute properties or buildings like that, land. So pwede din services if you don't have those, di ba? So the third one naman is corporation. So for you to know more about this, I want you to look at the screen or at the photos that I'll be sharing to you. So may ano tayo dito, San Miguel Corporation, Sun Life Financial, Universal Rubina, Robinson's Land Corporation, and Jollibee. Di ba? Very popular na to ng mga companies. And those class are publicly listed corporations here in the Philippines. So those are just some of the corporations here in the Philippines. So you may wonder, ano ba yung corporation? How does it operate? How does it form? So for you to know more about this, so just keep on watching. At the end of this video, you must be able to identify or define, what corporation is all about, what are the different types of corporation, and also differentiate it from the partnership and sole proprietorship. So now, ano ba yung corporation? So corporation is defined as an artificial being created by operation of law, having the right of succession, and the powers, attributes, and properties expressly authorized by law or incident to its existence. So let's synthesize it, let's know about the characteristics of a corporation. First, it is an artificial being created by the law. So ano ba yung artificial being? So artificial being simply means that it is not a human being, it is not a natural person, but it acts like one. So that is the definition of an artificial being. It could enter contract, it could be sued, and also it can sue. Gusto pwede siyang kasuhan, and pwede siyang mag-file ng kaso. So yan yung corporation. It has the right of succession. So ano ba yung ilan ba yung maximum life ng isang corporation? So di ba we have siguro you're doubting bakit may mga corporation na umaabot ng 100 years, 65 years, di ba? So, you may wonder, ano ba yung maximum life ng isang corporation? So, in law, the maximum life of it is 50 years, but it could be amended in the articles of a corporation if you want to extend the corporation. Siyempre naman, sino naman gusto na mag-end yung isang business if it is already 50 years, di ba? Parang it is very profitable na because it existed for that 5 decades, di ba? So it also has the powers and attributes that are expressly authorized and by the law or incident to its existence. So may mga characteristics siya class nga pwede siyang mag-act as a person, but he's not a natural being because it is an artificial being. Now, let's discuss more about the characteristic of corporation. First, we have the separate legal entity. So, like what I've said, a corporation is an artificial being with distinct personality. Meaning, separate yung entity ng isang tao at separate yung entity ng isang corporation because it existed because it was created by the law. So yan yung corporation class. It has personality as a person. But again, it is not a natural person but an artificial being. Second characteristic is corporation has transferable unit of ownership. So yung corporation class is divided into units of ownership and that is called shares or stocks. So 'di ba parang narinig niyo na 'yan or familiar na kayo sa word na shares because 'di ba kadalasan na pinag-aawayan sa mga pelikula ay yung yung shares ng isang kumpanya, 'di ba? So a corporation is divided into a unit of ownership which is called shares and those owners or those who buy shares are called shareholders or stockholders. So and good thing about if you are an owner of a share because it is transferable. So unlike sa partnership, 'di ba, that you cannot be a partner to the partnership without the consent of all of the existing partners. So pag may isa na nag-disagree, so you cannot enter the partnership. You cannot be a partner. But in corporation, your share could be transferred to another without the consent of all the shareholders. Because imagine, shareholder may reach to thousands or 100,000, di ba? Yung nagmamay-ari ng isang corporation. So, ang tawag doon mga shareholders. So, they could reach thousands of persons. So, yan yung transferable unit of ownership. Third one is the shareholders have limited liability. When we say limited, so opposite ng unlimited. So when we say limited liability class, meaning you cannot, the creditor cannot run after the shareholders because again, its characteristic is limited liability. So when we say unlimited liability naman class, meaning those creditors, if the business cannot pay the obligation, so the creditor can run after with your personal assets to your personal pockets. So mas gasto. But here in corporation class, shareholders have limited liability. So the creditor again could not run after you if you are an owner. So kung ilan lang yung na-invest mo, yan din lang yung mawawala sa iyo if ever mag-liquidate na yung corporation. So next we have this continuity of existence. So again, a corporation has a maximum life capacity of 50 years, but it could be amended sa articles of corporation if gusto mong mag-extend yung corporation mo. And next characteristic we have governing body. So sino ba yung nagmamanage ng corporation? So di ba in sole proprietorship, the owner himself I mean. So the owner, manager yung tawag sa kanya. Sa partnership naman, we have partners. So sa corporation, sino ba yung nag-govern? Sino ba yung nagmamanage? So ang tawag doon is a board of directors. So the board of directors are the governing body of the corporation. So sila yung may authority to manage the corporation since a corporation is a big company. So may mga representative, yung mga shareholders na para bang nagboto sila na they elect parang sa classroom lang class that out of the say for example 40 kayo sa isa ka classroom, so you elected your officers. So di ba, may president, may vice president, may secretary. So this same with corporation, we have this governing body which is called board of directors. So sila yung nagmamanage ng isang corporation. So now let's talk about the advantages of a corporation. So like what I've mentioned earlier, the advantage of corporation is it has a legal capacity to act as a legal entity or a legal person. Shareholders have limited liability. It has a continuity of existence. and its management is centralized in the board of directors, and of course, it has a greater ability to acquire funds. And lastly is the shares of it can be transferred to the other person without the consent of all the shareholders. Disadvantages naman, so corporation is relatively complicated to form. So mas mahirap siyang i-form unlike sa partnership class na it could be formed by a mere agreement of the parties. But in a corporation, you cannot just create a corporation, but because you must be registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission. So you must pass all the submit all the requirements that are needed to form a corporation. So kung sa Bisaya pa mas kote. So mas kote or mas mahirap yung pagbuo ng corporation unlike sa sole proprietorship. Of course, ikaw lang yung mag-decide. Unlike sa partnership and corporation na madali lang din because it requires a mere agreement of the parties. So again, sa corporation, kailangan mong mag-undergo ng process. You need to be registered with the SEC and even in the name of your corporation. So may may limitation yan. Second one, it has a greater degree of government supervision. And also, it is costly. So, mas costly yung pag-form ng corporation. Imagine, di ba, malalaki yung capital na needed to form a corporation. And, yung mabigat talaga is, it is subject to a heavier taxation. Di ba, napakasakit na mas malaki yung tax ng isang corporation unlike with the other forms of businesses. Now let's discuss about the different types of corporation. So we have this two types, basic types, stock corporation and a non-stock corporation. So a stock corporation is a corporation which have a share capital that is divided into shares and are authorized to distribute to the holder of such share dividends or allotments of the surplus profits on the basis of the shares held. So yung stock corporation, gaya ng Jollibee, gaya ng PLDT, gaya ng SM Ayala or Robinson's Land. So those are examples of stock corporation in which their ownership is divided into shares. So diba, bibilhin yung shares ng isang company ng mga shareholders. The public will buy the shares of that corporation, and in return, the corporation would give a dividend or dividends to the shareholders. Diba? Ano bang purpose? Diba? Ano bang reason why you invested with that corporation? Of course, for you to earn, for you to have an investment. So as a return of your investment, so the corporation would give back to you a share of profit, which is in a form of dividends. It may be a cash dividend or share dividend, para naman may mag-gain ka out of your investment aside from the market value of that shares. Now, the non-stock corporation. Ano ba yung non-stock corporation? So, this one is no part of its income is distributable as dividends to its members, trustees, or officers. So, unlike sa stock corporation class, na its profit is distributable to the shareholders, a part of its profit, because hindi naman pwede na lahat ibibigay because 'di ba i-rolling pa yung capital. But sa non-stock corporation, the profit is not distributable to the members, trustees, or officers. So we also have other classification of corporation. We have domestic corporation. So itong corporation na ito is corporation that is formed or organized under the Philippine laws. Foreign corporation under the foreign laws. Ecclesiastical corporation. These corporation are organized for religious purposes. Eleemosynary corporation established for public charity. We also have closed corporation, a corporation whose share ownership is limited into the selected persons or members of the family not exceeding 20 person. That is why it is called closed corporation. Kasi nga, may limit yung members ng isang corporation or ng company. And lastly, we have open corporation. Available. This corporation is available for subscription or purchase by any person. So let's now move with the components of a corporation. So first we have incorporators. So incorporators are those persons that are mentioned in the articles of incorporation. So sila yung kumbaga founder ng isang corporation in which they must not be less than 5 persons and not more than 15. So may limit, 5 to 15 only na persons. And so they are called incorporators. Shareholders naman, like what I've said, are those persons who buy stocks sa isang corporation. We also have corporators. So corporators are those para bang general term for the shareholder and the incorporator. So sila yung mga corporators. So iba yung incorporators, iba din yung corporators. Because again, parang yung corporator is the general term, but the incorporators is very specific to persons that are mentioned in the articles of incorporation. We also have promoters. So sila yung mga taong nagpro-promote before nabuo yung isang corporation. So they are the ones who para bang nag-search ng mga possible na mga investors to form that corporation. We also have subscribers. So yung mga subscribers are those persons who buy stocks but are not yet paid. So may tawag din sa kanila subscriber. So hindi YouTube subscriber. And ano pa ba? We also have of course the board of directors. So again, they are the governing body of the corporation. Now, next question. Who may form a corporation? So, sino-sino ba yung magbubuo ng isang corporation? I mean, sino bang allowed or qualified to form a corporation? First is you must be a natural person. So, tao ka. Hindi ka artificial being. You must be a natural being. And you must have a legal age. So, di ba, 18 yung legal age dito sa Philippines. And you must be ano pa ba? The incorporators must again not less than 5 but not more than 15, and you must be an owner or subscriber of at least one stock of the corporation. So for you to form a corporation, one of the requirements to create it is to make an article of incorporation. So ano ba yung article of incorporation? So ano ba yung laman nito? So as you can see, the articles of incorporation composes of, includes the name of the corporation. Ano ba yung name ng inyong company? Ano ba yung purpose, specific purpose for which the corporation is formed? Saan ba naka-base or located yung corporation nyo? The term of existence, the names, nationalities, residences, and the number of directors or trustees, and ano pa ba? So the number of director and the names, nationalities, and residences of the persons who shall act as directors or trustees until the first regular directors or trustees are elected and qualified. Also, sa articles of incorporation, if you are a non-stock corporation, a stock corporation, it must be mentioned in the article the amount of authorized share capital, the number of shares in which it is divided, and the value of shares. But if you are a non-stock corporation, the amount of its capital, the names, nationalities, and residences of the contributors, and the amount contributed. So wala nang yung authorized share capital and walang shares because it is non-stock corporation. Okay, so before I end this video, let's have first a review, no? Baka masyadong madali lang yung pagka-discuss ko. So, corporation again is an artificial being. So, not a natural being, not a natural person, but has a legal personality to act as a legal entity. So, its ownership is divided into shares or unit of ownership, which is called shares, and those who buy shares are called shareholders. So we also have this governing body of the corporation, which is called board of directors. So for you to form a corporation, you must prepare an article of incorporation, you must be of legal age, and components of an incorporator is you must not be the persons that is mentioned in the articles of incorporation must not be less than 5 but not more than 15 persons for you to form it. Ano pa ba? Advantages, so may limited liability yung shareholders. Disadvantages, subject to heavier taxation. The government has greater supervision or control to the corporation. Ano pa ba? So I think that's it. That concludes our discussion for this morning. So if you have question, you may comment your clarification below or questions below for me to answer it para naman mas klaro yung lesson natin lesson today. So I think that's it for today, and thank you for watching, and I hope that you've learned something from my discussion. Thank you.